شهر القرآن.
The story of a samosa maker, based on Islamic teachings, by Fowzia Gilani Williams. Not so long ago, in a village near Islamabad, lived a samosa maker called Abdullah. He was short and plump and always wore a clean, spotless pajama and kurta with a round topi. Abdullah wasn't the only samosa maker in the village, but he was the best. His samosa were the tastiest and the best around. He was making different kinds of samosa: potato samosa, meat samosa, coconut samosa, raisin samosa, fruit samosa. About some of them, people had never even heard of. Abdullah wasn't just a good samosa maker, he was also concerned about the poor and needy. After Salatul Asr, Abdullah used to go around and distribute samosa amongst the old, sick, orphans and poor. He would say, "Everything I have belongs to Allah, and He tells us to share it with others." People came from far and wide to get a taste of Abdullah's samosa. Everyone liked him except Zalim Khan. Zalim Khan was a samosa maker like Abdullah, but his samosa were not as tasty as Abdullah's. This made Zalim very jealous. Once Zalim Khan conspired to do something against Abdullah so that people would stop buying his samosa. He busied himself all the time thinking that how to defame Abdullah before the people and bring his business down. He couldn't find any opportunity as such to do anything against him. But finally, during the month of Ramadan, Zalim Khan thought of a very mischievous plan. Every day, Abdullah would take samosa to the mosque so that the people could eat them at iftar. There is so much thawab, reward, in providing food at iftar for those who fast in the month of Ramadan, Abdullah would say to himself. Every day, Zalim Khan used to watch Abdullah from behind as he carried a large tray of samosa to the mosque. One day, Zalim Khan waited for Abdullah to come along with his tray. As soon as he saw Abdullah coming, Zalim walked behind him carrying his own bigger tray of samosa that looked just like Abdullah's. But Zalim's samosa were not tasty like his. They were made of stale ingredients and bitter spices. "Assalamu alaikum, Zalim," greeted Abdullah with a big smile. "Wa alaikum salam." "Wa alaikum salam," replied Zalim. When Abdullah and Zalim reached the door of the mosque, they took off their shoes and put them on the shoe rack. While Abdullah's back was turned, Zalim quickly exchanged his tray with Abdullah's. Abdullah placed the tray alongside other food items and sat down in a row with other people, waiting for the adhan. There were dates and jugs of water kept in front of the people to break their fast. Zalim Khan walked with the tray that he had exchanged from Abdullah and placed it in a different row of people and sat just next to Abdullah. Finally, people broke their fast with a date and water and got up to offer Salatul Maghrib. Soon after, they came back to have their meal. Everyone was so hungry after a whole day of fasting. People began to take samosa from the trays of both Abdullah and Zalim. Zalim watched people making unpleasant faces after having a bit from Abdullah's samosa, and the happy ones of those who were having samosa from his tray. It happened the same every evening. Zalim's plan appeared to be a success. Zalim was able to exchange the samosa either at Abdullah's shop, at the mosque, or along the way. Zalim also spread the rumor that Abdullah used bad and stale ingredients into his samosa. Soon the whole town talked about Abdullah using bad ingredients for his samosa. Very soon, people stopped buying and having Abdullah's samosa. Poor Abdullah now couldn't make any more samosa since he had no money to buy flour, cooking oil, etc. Abdullah had to live in a small hut because he could no longer afford to maintain his shop. Meanwhile, Zalim Khan's business grew by leaps and bounds. Even though his samosa were not very tasty, people had no option left. One day, the village imam announced that Qadi Yusuf Hamza was coming to give a khutbah, a sermon. Everyone was excited to hear the news. Qadi Yusuf was a pious man, and he taught people how to follow the path of Allah. Insha'Allah, we will ask Qadi Yusuf to stay with us for iftar and lead Salatul Tarawih, said the imam. Everyone knew that Qadi Yusuf's favorite food item was the samosa. So the people of the village decided to cook the best samosa in honor of the guest. All the samosa makers except Abdullah were busy making samosa. After Qadi Yusuf's deliverance of khutbah, people let him know the special arrangement of samosa for him on iftar. MashaAllah, smiled Qadi Yusuf, turning to the imam. I'm looking forward to eating the samosa of Abdullah after so many days. The imam's smiling face suddenly became sorrowful. I am sorry to tell you, Qadi Sahib, that Abdullah doesn't make samosa anymore. Is Abdullah ill? Curiously asked the Qadi. The imam told him that people didn't like to buy Abdullah's samosa anymore. But Abdullah is the best samosa maker in the village, I think, said Qadi Yusuf with a puzzled expression. He used to be the best samosa maker, but not anymore, replied the imam dejectedly. Qadi Yusuf decided to visit Abdullah. When Abdullah saw him, tears welled up in his eyes. Allah is testing me, wept poor Abdullah. He could hold himself no more. The people of the village think that I used bad fillings into my samosa, so they gave up buying my samosa, as a result of which I had to leave my shop. Why did they think you used bad ingredients? Asked Qadi Yusuf. Subhanallah, sighed Abdullah. Allahu A'lam. Allah knows best. I don't know. Qadi Yusuf left, telling Abdullah to trust in Allah and seek only His help. Qadi Yusuf then went to some of the people and inquired why they thought Abdullah used bad fillings into his samosa. Eventually, the Qadi came to know that it was Zalim who had told them so for the first time. Qadi Sahib hurriedly went to Zalim's shop. People say that you told them that Abdullah used bad ingredients in his samosa. How did you know about it? Zalim Khan at first tried to avoid the blame, but then he had to admit that he had spread a false rumor. I was jealous of him, so I defamed him by exchanging Abdullah's good samosa with my bad ones. The Qadi was very shocked to know the fact. He told Zalim that he had committed a grave sin, even in the holy month of Ramadan. You must seek Allah's forgiveness and should apologize to Abdullah. Then you must also tell the people the truth, instructed the Qadi. Zalim began to cry remorsefully. He felt very bad for what he had done, as he did not want to draw the wrath of Allah. When people came to know what Zalim had done, they were very angry with him and felt sorry for Abdullah. Once again, Abdullah started making delicious samosa. People stopped buying Zalim's samosa. Abdullah was a very kind and helpful person. He asked Zalim to join him in his business. Zalim was now very happy. Both Abdullah and Zalim became best friends. The Imam always ate samosa from their shop whenever he passed from there. The end.
شرفت يا شهر القرآن أهلا وسهلا